1977 announced his retirement. Today he says he plans to take up racing trucks, but only for fun.
After 17 years of racing, Britain's best-known motorcyclist has finally given up the attempt to regain the World Championship. His efforts to stay top have almost cost him his life. His most serious accident at Silverstone in 1982 crushed his legs and left more metal than bone in them. But he was convinced he could return to top form and came out of hospital determined to make a comeback. With courage and the cheeky cockney humour that typified his approach to life and the constant support of his wife Stephanie, he managed 6th place in last year's championship, a remarkable achievement because he had an uncompetitive machine. But this incident shows he'd lost none of his ability to ride a bike to its limit and remain in one piece. With Stephanie having given birth to a daughter 2 months ago, however, Parish now has an added incentive to avoid the risks of his often dangerous sport. But how will he satisfy the energy that made him world champion?
I have a contract, 2-year contract with DAF Trucks to race and promote their trucks. So I should be going around to different European racetracks to compete in them. And I'm also negotiating with a company to race saloon cars. But this is not to earn my living at, this is just something, a little bit of fun.
16 years of competitive racing. Sheene was one of the most successful riders of the last decade. But, as Mark Austin reports, he never really regained his form after an horrific crash in 1982, which shattered his legs.
Since he began in 1968, Barry Sheene set the standards other British motorcycle racers to follow. He won his first championship at the first attempt. He was world champion in 1976 and again in 1977. But he was in the news as much for his spectacular accidents as for the records he was setting. The worst came during practice for the British Grand Prix in 1982. Sheene crashed into another motorcycle, and he and his burning bike ended up 100 yards down the track. In hospital, surgeons spent 7 hours rebuilding his 2 shattered legs. As these remarkable X-ray pictures show, Sheene was literally rebuilt with metal plates fixed together with a total of 27 screws. 3 weeks later, Barry Sheene was leaving hospital, determined to get back on a bike and start all over again. That he did just 6 weeks later. He wasn't racing, but he was back on a motorcycle and back on the track. March 1983 came Sheene's comeback in competitive racing, the South African Grand Prix at Kyalami. He came 10th, a remarkable achievement, but not surprisingly, he never really regained top form after his crash. Sheene finally lost his metal plates a few weeks ago. The scars, they'll always be there. Today, he spoke of his decision to quit.
Well, since the accident, it's been very difficult for me to get a competitive bike. Well, one competitive enough to win a world championship. And over the past couple of months, I've been trying to get a good, well, not a good bike, but a bike that I could win the world championship on. And because I couldn't get one, then I thought, well, now was a good time to give it up.
How are the legs now? What's the state of play with those?
Oh, they're great. I wouldn't be without them.
He regained his form after a crash 2.5 years ago which shattered both his legs.
Barry Sheene was the 500cc world champion twice, in 1976 and 77. But it was crashes like this one which brought
Walker.